During the events of this movie, the World Cup is going on. So his plan is to, like, during halftime when everybody takes a bathroom break, to, like, unleash all of the water, basically. So yeah, that's the plot of the movie.
Thank you so much, Glenda, but I know that movie very well.
Yeah, we know it's a real movie.
Damn it!
It's a very popular movie.
Oh no, damn it. I hate that.
You said it's flushed away. I'm like, unless you made up another movie called the same thing.
Hello, and welcome back to Chai Chatter. On today's menu, we will be playing a game called Is This a Real Movie? Alongside various warm beverages. What do you ladies have today?
Call me basic because, like I have for the last few podcasts, I have just a lemon green tea.
I mean, I have like a straight up mug filled with root beer, so. But I mean, it's nice weather, so I kind of wanted something a little bit colder for once.
And I have caramel shortbread from that David's Tea collection that I'm not gonna finish for another year or so. So basically the name of this game is that we are each going to talk about 3 movies that are bizarre, strange, so bad that they're good, that somebody must have cooked up in a weird fever dream. However, the caveat is that one of our 3 movies is going to be a fake that we made up. The other 2 will have to guess which one is made up. And the prize is bragging rights.
In this movie, so the one thing you need to know is that there are 2 wizards. There is one who is red and has warm powers and is a good wizard. Then there's one who is blue and has cold powers and is evil. So in this movie, a dog pushes a cart of things he was supposed to be guarding into a merry-go-round. He pushes this cart into a merry-go-round. The evil wizard has been trapped inside this merry-go-round, and by hitting it, the prison breaks and the wizard is freed. By him being freezed, everyone who is on that merry-go-round then gets frozen into place. The other villagers are so distraught over this that they end up calling the good wizard to come and help them, and he explains that the prison was held sealed by 3 diamonds that now have been scattered. So, a group of funky little friends get on a train and they start going around to try and beat the cold wizard from getting the diamonds. The cold wizard wants to use the diamonds to freeze the sun so that it'll be winter forever. And, basically start a new ice
age. I think that's so specific, and with, the dog and the merry-go-round, that I think it does have to be true. But I think we should ask some more questions about it first.
Yeah. Yes, because the thing is, we don't know if the rest of Chantel's descriptions are also the kind of same thing, right? Yeah. So we're not going to say anything for now. What I will ask is, about when was this movie produced, and is it like a children's film?
All of mine are children's films, stuff that I watched when I was young, and even then knew that it was kind of just, insane, it just not make sense. For this one, it came out in about 2003, so about when we were born. I also want to include the endings of each of them. This one, it ends up with the bad guy gets all of the diamonds and goes back to the merry-go-round. They manage to get the diamonds back and trap him, and then it's just happy ever after in the last little bit. So the bad guy wins, but then he doesn't.
Who's, the main character of the movie?
So the main character is the dog. It almost sets up that his friend who is frozen in the merry-go-round is going to be the main character, but then the dog is the main character who's going around.
See, this movie doesn't sound that implausible, you know?
Because I know there's a lot of, weird kids movies that came out in the early 2000s, and sometimes I'm just has anyone else seen these movies? Because, they're just a complete fever dream to me. So I think that, this could definitely be one of them.
Was this movie animated?
This was
live action.
This was an animated movie. The majority of the characters are anthropomorphic animals. Or anthropomorphic fictional fictional creatures. The wizards are springs.
Springs?
Yes!
Okay, I don't think you made that up. Okay, so the plot of this movie is a man is tricked by his boss into snorting a substance that turns him into a half-human, half-horse hybrid. He then joins forces with other half-human, half-horse hybrids, and together they take down his boss.
Okay,
wow.
half-human, half-horse as in centaurs? Or like another form where the horse is on top and the human is on bottom?
No, it's like it's
BoJack
mixed,
Horseman
kind
type.
of. It's like a horse, but like standing on 2 legs.
Oh,
okay.
So the top half is the horse.
No, the legs
They're
are
not
like
so beautiful anymore.
horse legs too, but like he's just standing like a human.
Oh, so it's like the BoJack
Like
Horseman
talking
style
stuff.
of its...
So it's, yeah, like that.
Okay, animated.
Is it animated?
No. Well, I mean, they used visual effects for the horses, obviously, but it's like filmed with real people.
Okay, what is the motive for taking down the boss? Like what's the whole kind of narrative arc to it?
So the boss is basically what he's trying to do is he's trying to get a bunch of these half-human, half-horse hybrids to sort of be his workforce for this big company that he owns. So the group of like half-horse people plus the protagonist like escape this guy's like company, and then they come back to like kill him or whatever.
Okay, so when did this movie come out?
Very recently. I think it was like 2018 or 2019. So I was like, you might know this one, I'm not sure.
Like, do they end up killing the boss and succeeding?
Yeah, they do.
How do they manage to continue living as horse people in society?
That's where the movie ends. Like, the movie ends with... Because there's a bunch of stuff that like goes on in the beginning of the film, but like the climax, I guess, is the main character getting turned into a horse, and then afterwards, they get their revenge, and then that's where it ends. You don't really see where it's going from there.
Tell us a little bit more about this main character. Does he have any family, any close ties?
I mean, he has a girlfriend, and basically the whole thing with him is that him and his girlfriend live in his uncle's garage. So the reason why he started working at that company to begin with is that so he can start like affording to have his own place.
What is this company?
The company, it's like a telemarketing company.
Why would you need horse people specifically for a telemarketing company?
Well, it's like slave labor, so basically they just want them to work as fast as possible.
And being a horse helps with that.
It's actually a really great movie, though, like, really funny and, very deep, too.
As horse people, does that make them easier to exploit?
Yeah, well, they don't tire as easily, and, they don't have to give them the same sort of, salary and needs as you would a human. If a horse gets, if they get sick or they break a leg or something, what happens? You just shoot them.
Damn.
I guess.
Well, I can see the route of social commentary. If it was made in the past, 5 years or something, it's probably like something about forced labor and capitalism or whatever.
Like, we had a surge of movies that wanted to have the really political statements underneath. I also would like to point out that at one point it didn't sound super, like, thought through to say it. Diana did say, "You might know it." So...
Well, I mean, it's on Netflix, so don't check, but like...
Oh, well, obviously we won't check.
I thought you might know it.
That sounds like cheating. But yeah, I feel like this is plausible, especially if it's on Netflix, because Netflix is it's a Wild West.
So my movie, it's called Killer Bean Forever. Top-notch assassin Killer Bean is called upon to clean up the mess when things go bad. While on a mission in Beantown, Killer Bean attacks one of the warehouses owned by the mafia boss, Cappuccino, and sets the attention of Detective Cromwell, a bean who's trying to put Cappuccino and possibly Killer Bean behind bars. So basically, this is a movie about anthropomorphized coffee beans. And it is a 3D animated movie with very, very shitty animation. Everybody has the same lips, but no, like, inside of the mouth, and they all have, like, butt-looking heads. So pretty much every 5 minutes there's a fight scene. There's a lot of gun violence. There's a serious problem with gun control in Beantown. It seems like every one of the residents has a gun. The plot of the movie is not really clear. Basically, Killer Bean is sent on that mission. He, kills a mafia boss, and then that sets off a whole bunch of events throughout the city, and people come after Killer Bean. Namely the detective who's trying to figure out the connections between these various forces. And then there's also something going on with the mafia syndicate too. There are a lot of kind of racist stereotypes. So there's this one coffee bean with I believe it's from the Qing dynasty. It's a long ponytail. There's a bean that has that. He gets introduced in a Chinese restaurant meditating. He has an accent. The Cappuccino, the mafia boss, is a Mexican being, and he has a terrible Mexican accent. I don't know how to describe this movie otherwise.
Okay, so when did this movie come out?
This movie came out in 2009.
It's not a kids movie, obviously, right? It's like a...
It's not.
Kind of like a mature animation type thing. Honestly, I really, right off the bat, I do not believe that this is a real movie. Number one, I'm getting Black Cherry vibes, so... so I'm thinking that, like, it just sounds like something that you would have made up. Where did you find this movie?
It's on YouTube.
And how old were you when you watched this movie?
I watched it this year.
This year. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, the YouTube thing, like, I might be wrong about this, but considering it has a lot of, like, racist and, like, adult themes and stuff, like, I mean, YouTube will take you down if you say, like, the word, like, corona. So I just don't know if it would actually stay up on YouTube.
But by the way, I've watched all of these movies this year. But my memory of them varies, so.
Okay, so for me, my impression of this one is, like, it's clearly very out there. I feel like almost to the point where, like, some of the things where you were jumping, you're like, oh, and there's mafia boss, oh, and there's this, oh, and there's this. That's the part that seemed like it could have been something that you came up with, where you're, like, coming up with all of these things that would make it seem ridiculous. But at the same time, you just casually slipped in the name Cappuccino at one point, and I'm not sure if people were really thinking about, like, the names of their fake characters.
Well, I mean, there is a mafia boss named Cappuccino.
Sure.
What was I gonna say? I'm gonna ask Barry.
Is it like a well-known director? Has he gone on to do anything then?
No, I don't think it's a well-known director. But this movie is, at least on YouTube, it has upwards of 20 million views.
How does, like, since the characters are coffee beans, how do they move?
They have feet. And also, this is the funny thing, right? Like, they have pants up until the part where the bottom of the bean begins, which basically is like their butt area. So the pants covered their legs, and then their butt is just out. Obviously, it's not like their butts aren't, like, animated to be butts, but you know.
There's a lot of details, so that's pretty convincing. But yeah, so far I'm not really sold on this one. I'll have to wait and hear your other...
This movie, it starts off with two kids are being left at home with their babysitter, but this babysitter is very old and falls asleep. So the kids are like, okay, well, they'll just, like, watch TV or, do whatever on their own. But then a cat comes to the door and decides to teach them how to have fun. So the cat then destroys the house by doing things like trying to cook in the kitchen and jumping on the bed, and basically just destroys everything. And the kids are kind of pursed about it because they're the ones who are going to get in trouble. Oh, and the cat also invites two of his friends through a portal to his home world into the house. One of the kids then picks the lock on the portal. The lock comes off, but it attaches itself to their dog, who runs away. So now the portal is stuck open. They decide to go find the dog, who has been kidnapped by their neighbor, but they get the dog back. On their way back, the neighbor calls their mom to try and get them in trouble. So they get back to their house, which, because the portal was left open, has turned into a gooey abyss. The goo gets sucked back into the portal, but then the house collapses. It turns out in the big reveal... This is so
specific.
Oh, yeah, I actually wrote out, like, on all my papers I wrote out the entire plot of the movies. I didn't realize you guys were just doing premises.
Oh my god.
The big reveal is that the cat was planning this all along. And the kids prepare to get in trouble, but the cat starts to feel bad and uses a magic cleaning machine to instantly fix everything.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. This is
the
Cat in the Hat movie with Mike Myers.
Okay, this is the one I thought might be
it is a real movie.
Oh, yeah,
I used to love this movie growing up. It's so weird.
It's so bad. It's insane. Yeah, no. It's a wild movie. There's no way to, like, properly explain the plot. Like,
well, it's not, like, good, but it's, so weird it's good.
Well, I failed on that one. Diana, your turn.
Well, first of all, it's a horror movie / romance / Western about a skateboarding vampire in Iran who preys on disrespectful men. Well, I mean, she's a vampire, so she rides up to them on her skateboard, and then she takes them back to her apartment, and then she bites their necks. It's a good movie, in my opinion. The premise sounds weird, but it actually works, like, in a very believable way.
What is the climax of the movie?
The climax of the movie is her and her boyfriend, who's, like, I don't know, he's, like, supposed to be, like, a Western type hero. And wait, what even happens? I saw this movie earlier this year. His dad is, like, a drug addict, and then his dad dies, and then he gets mad at the dad's drug dealer, so then he goes to like beat up the dad's drug dealer, and then but this girl gets there first and she kills the drug dealer, and then he's like helping her clean up the body or whatever. And basically like the climax is like the two of them falling in love or whatever, like the Western cowboy hero and the skateboarding vampire.
So, when did this one come out?
2014.
What's the main character's name?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. For an IMDb, it just lists her as the girl.
The girl.
Okay, so this is clearly an indie thing if they didn't name the main character.
Yeah.
It's very
clearly
indie.
very obscure. Okay. And is this an Iranian movie?
Yes, it is. No, it's in Persian, I think the language is.
What I'm curious about is how you came across this movie.
Well, basically, I have this, like, streaming service called Canopy, which you can get with, like, your library card, and it just, like, has a bunch of, like, you know, curricular indie movies on it, so I saw this as one of the movies, and I was like, ooh, this looks kind of cool, and then I saw the trailer for it, and I'm like, ooh, cool trailer, and then I watched the movie.
Maybe it's your memory, or maybe the lack of preparation it feels, but then again, that could be a psychological trick.
Once again, the way you talk about IMDb seemed somewhat realistic, you searching it up, as well as the fact that you decided to check if it was a girl, and I feel like if it was a fake thing and you're asked about the character's name, you'd usually come up with a name. Like, if you're like, what's the name? You'd be like, oh, Samantha, the vampire, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure if the main character in an Iranian film's name was Samantha, that'd be a red flag number 1. Yeah, you'd be like, no, next one.
She's blonde with blue eyes, and my next one. This film is called Rudder. And the summary is, a small red boat docked near the ocean comes to life with the power to drown its passengers by dumping them in the water. When the victims pile up, local fisherman Ed must get to the bottom of all the mysterious disappearances. And basically, I believe it's kind of an indie satire horror film. Like, they frame it that this boat is absolutely menacing, and then all of the victims are kind of like stupid in the ways that they die and in the ways that they choose to get into the boat. And also there are a lot of scenes of the boat just kind of driving around by itself, but menacingly, like it's chasing after you. I don't know. It introduces the boat. There's like a kid, teenage couple, old woman. Throughout the fisherman Ed, he like kind of is loosely related to all of the victims, and then he has to kind of like tie these different plots together to figure out that it was the boat that did it.
Where did you find this movie?
I found it on Project Free TV. It's one of my backdoor websites that I use.
How do they solve the problem of the boat?
Basically, it is only Ed that's like trying to... And he's a fisherman. He has his own boat and he goes out to sea, right? So he kind of notices like, I guess the areas where these people have disappeared and then the times. And just, well, first he kind of pursues like, is it a person that's doing all of this? But then he realizes that they all die at sea. The point of the satire part of it is that there's not that much logic. The film just kind of like gives you these like plot points that happen without any lead up to it necessarily. So it's just kind of like by the end he figures it out.
Question:
bunch
when
of
did this
incidents.
movie come out?
It came out in 2007.
Honestly, this sounds fake but like now but like you can't have two fake ones.
I thought that the first one was more realistic than this one. This one has me like I feel like there just wasn't enough detail. It was kind of vague. The first one was entirely insane. This one has a very simple premise overall. Boat, evil, kill people, fishermen, solve problems.
I will say, I think all of mine are gonna sound like this, because that's the way that I'm delivering it to you, is what I realized, is that all of them are gonna sound fake, because I didn't, like, as I said, I was gonna ad-lib the summaries from memory.
Well, if this movie isn't a movie, I want it to be. Because it sounds really funny, actually.
Well,
in my mind, it sounds terrible. It sounds like a terrible movie.
See, the one thing about a release date of 2007 that does make sense to me is around that time, a lot of movies that were coming out were like disaster movies or whatever. I'm sure you guys remember. I don't remember when it came out, probably earlier than that, but like you remember the whole Sharknado thing and like
people
killer movies for some reason, or just disaster movies in general. And this does kind of sound like a disaster movie to me, so that's why that sounds believable in my mind, but the rest of it, it's very vague. vague, so I'm just not sure. What's the ending of the movie?
The ending is that he figures out it's the boat, and then it just cuts. And the strange thing throughout the movie is that, okay, so Ed has loose connections to all of these people, but like the rest of the town kind of doesn't really even seem to talk about the disappearances.
I think that's believable, because if it was really like a low-budget movie, they wouldn't be able to show a lot of the set. Or, have a lot of characters.
Yeah, I think that was the case.
That's a believable detail.
My final one, all of the characters are, like, very similar. Little green, they're small creatures that are almost, like, lumpy-ish, kind of like a bean. And it's in, like...
the bean.
I know! When Glenda was talking, I was like, that's one thing. I was like, there are multiple bean movies. No. So, they aren't actually beans, but that's just sort of the shape that they're in. And unlike Glenda's beans, they sort of like hover as they move, and it's in like this utopia type sort of a world where it's always sunny and happy all the time, and there are new beans being created by these plants that just sort of poof them out and they come flying up, and then there's these cute little beans. But then one day, in this utopia where it's always sunny, it starts to snow. Why am I reading it like this? All of the plants that create these new beans that have, like, they're gonna start wilting soon, they realize. So a group of the small happy beans decide to go and venture and follow where the clouds came from to figure out what is happening. So they're going through their town and everyone's so sad, but then when they kind of hit a line where it's suddenly colder, and it turns out on the other side of this place that has been so far that no one ever went to, it turns out there it was always cold. And the people are so happy that now they can go further than they used to be able to without melting. Like, it's like snow has been molded to create these little snow beans. And they're happy because they can now go further. Warm beans, they're like, oh no, you guys can't do that, girls, we can't survive. So they keep going, and then they see that it has been caused by this cold beam that's gone up into the sky to expand their climate so that they could go farther. The wrapping up is basically they end up making a mid-zone where somehow they can both coexist at the same time, and it's a children's movie, so I don't entirely get what scientific logic they tried to explain that away with. But yeah, they're trying to save their home while also meeting people who then are trying to expand their home because climate.
Is there like a main character in this movie?
It is one of the little green beans. This one is more like the leader of the pack sort of type, where it's like, come on guys, let's do this, like, pulling all of his friends to come help.
Oh, do these beans have different features that distinguish them?
It's animated, so in like their little animated faces, like through like eyebrows and like eye shape, like, that sort of thing to distinguish them, because they don't have a lot to them.
Is this movie like in like 3D animation kinda, or is it like 2D?
It is like a 2D animation. It's a very cheap movie. Straight to DVD type.
Oh, when did it come out?
It was in 2010.
The Wizards one just seems like, I guess when she was summarizing it, it kind of had a flow to it, like as the details were added in. This one did too. Didn't feel like somebody else wrote it.
I think that this one is definitely the fake, because number one, if it was from 2010, that's probably soon enough that they could... Actually, was that soon enough for streaming? I'm trying to think.
I don't...
Because it might seem easier just to upload it to the internet.
That was a bit before
And then also, actually, I think that nowadays it's actually harder to animate 2D than it is 3D.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose to do it in 2D, but it definitely was like...
What's the title of this movie?
This one was... Oh, fuck, you got me there. Okay, yeah, you were gonna get it anyways. Yeah, no, I can't think of it. I didn't name them because I wasn't going to say the names of them. Yeah, I also didn't quite realize that this was gonna, that it was gonna be a full interrogation about them. So, my 2D thing was a terrible decision. I thought about it for a second, I'm like, okay. And now thinking back, I think even that 2003 one was 3D animation. I'm like, oh god. I really messed up there. The first one, though, it's called the Magic Roundabout. And if I told you all of the plot details details in the middle, that would have just been like, it's a wild movie. It's something else. Nothing has any logic to how things are resolved.
This movie is about an old married couple living on a tortoise farm in Arizona who get rich by smuggling drugs across the U.S. border into Mexico by training their tortoises to dig holes under the border with drugs strapped to their shells. Like, it's a little bit artsy. So I think that the message behind it, like, my interpretation is sort of like how the price of, like, retiring is so high now, and, like, sending
that they have to go Breaking Bad style?
Yeah, they have to go Breaking Bad, basically, but with tortoises.
I will say, though, for
I see.
This one is also substantially less insane.
Yes.
Half-horse humans, to skateboarding vampires, to turtles smuggle drugs, which is, like, not even that bizarre of a thing, honestly. I feel like that's something that someone has done before.
I think it's more weird when you see it. The people who made this movie are kind of known for their, like, dark sense of humor, so...
What's the climax?
What's the climax? Well, basically, one of their kids, because they have 4 kids, and one of them they're trying to send to university, and the other kid is already, like, a police officer, and he's one of, like, the people tasked with sort of, like, investigating this drug thing, and the climax of the movie is, like, their son finding them out. Well, eventually, he was planning on turning them in, but then he decides to side with them.
So when did you say that it came out?
2006.
I feel like the skateboarding one is real. Just the fact that it's in Persian and, like, all those sort of little...
I don't know, the details about the first one, like slave labor, horses working faster, it seems a little bit weird, and, like, Diana had to kind of come up with those answers as she went. Yeah. I would say it's the first one.
You're both wrong. The one that's fake is the tortoise farm.
I should have gone with my gut.
Darn it, I'm sorry.
That wasn't weird enough. That was something that's a normal person could come up with.
It wasn't weird enough. Yeah.
I actually got the idea because I actually do have relatives in Arizona who live by the Mexican border who do have a tortoise farm. So that one's sort of grounded in reality a little bit. I don't think they're drug dealers.
Okay. Oh, I really should have just gone with my gut there. I really wanted to say that it was 3, but I was like, no.
Right, you're right.
And then the other 2 movies, the first one is on Netflix. It's Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley. It's a really good movie. It's really funny. I did kind of, with the whole horse thing, kind of coming up with the reason why. I don't actually think they ever really mention why they decide on horses exactly. Like, I'm sure there's some sort of, like, metaphorical meaning to it, to being turned into horses, but I just didn't know. So I gave it my best guess. And then the second movie is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, an Iranian film.
This one is called Flushed Away, and it is about Roddy, a rat.
In a luxurious lifestyle, luxurious lifestyle in a furnished flat. However, life has other plans for him after he gets flushed down from a toilet into the sewers of London, where a new beginning awaits him. And basically the plot of this movie is that he discovers that there's this, like, rat society that lives in the sewers, and they kind of all have their ways of living life. And then he meets this girl named Rhea, and she's kind of, like, on the run from this toad, like this evil toad that wants to eliminate all rats, because he's, he was jealous of them, because in his past he used to be Prince Harry's favorite pet. But then now, Prince Harry's favorite pet is a rat, so he, like, hates all rats. And he kind of runs this mafia-style thing where he's in charge of, like, rats, and then also he has a bunch of cousins that are frogs, that are French. And then, basically, like, it starts off where they, like, stole a jewel from him, but then they steal, like, a cable from him that he wants to recover because the cable is integral to his plan. And his plan is basically, to flush all of the...
During the events of this movie, the World Cup is going on, so his plan is to, like, during halftime when everybody takes a bathroom break, to, like, unleash all of the water, basically. So yeah, that's the plot of the movie.
Thank you so much, Glenda, but I know that movie very well.
Yeah, we know it's a real movie.
Damn it!
It's a very popular movie.
Oh no, damn it. I hate that.
You said it's flushed away. I'm like, unless you made up another movie called the same thing.
Why did you guys let me say the entire summary?
I didn't want to...
Damn it.
That's funny.
Oh, what a mistake. I'm so sad. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, okay, well, at least we've narrowed down for sure one of the options that it can't be for the lie. But I actually do have one last question before we start deciding which one of your movies is real, which one is fake. So you said the end of the boat movie is when he realizes that the boat was the killer all along. So I'm wondering then, what is the climax of the movie?
There isn't really a climax. Like, it ends at the climax.
Okay.
And maybe they didn't want to write the rest of the movie because, I mean, there's really not much else there. Like, once the mystery is over, there's not much left of the movie. There's only one character, right?
I think that the red boat one is fake. I'm pretty strong on that. There is just so many things in the coffee one. And this one, I feel like Glenda could write a plot where it ends in a dun dun dun. Like, I feel like that's a very Glenda way to like have that shock and that way ended off on a funny sort of note, have a very satirical, funny movie.
See, I'm not really sure because I'm just so much wanting this boat movie to be a real thing that like I'm sort of drawn towards saying it's the other one that's fake. Just because to me the other one sounds like it's more fake, because I feel like going into this, Glenda would be the person who would write down all of the details. Yeah. So then the more vague ones would be like the ones that are real actually.
Like I was not reading from Wikipedia for any of my movies. They were all like, that's why sometimes it's kind of like messy because it's like from recall.
Okay, yeah. See, that's the kind of part that I thought was a bit weird because for the first movie it definitely sounded like you were reading straight from like the back of a DVD, which wouldn't really make sense if it was a YouTube movie. So, but then you came up with that, I'm wondering why you didn't go for the same style for the other two movies.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what, just to spice things up, I'm gonna say that the other movie, the Bean movie, is fake.
Chantal is right.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was pretty sure.
You need to make that thing into a real movie, because I'd watch that.
Yes, but Diana, here's the catch, right? There's a movie called Rubber, about a rubber tire that comes to life. It's a horror comedy satire. So the description of this movie is a car tire comes to life with the power to make people explode and goes on a murderous rampage through the Californian desert. And I was like, I'm gonna make a parody of this. And yeah, I did ad-lib. But the thing is, right, because the way I tried to frame it is that there actually isn't that much going on in this movie. So it is like... But
then
yeah,
why would you choose
Killer
it?
Bean is a very real movie. It has 24 million views on YouTube. You can watch it in 4K.
Oh, great.
And it has like a soundtrack and everything. It's amazing.
I think my biggest fault in this challenge was you guys had the like good idea to like take something from reality and make it a movie, or take a movie and turn it into a different movie. For me, I just went, let's come up with a plot of a children's movie and just start talking about it. And then you asked for a name, and I was like,
that's the hardest thing to do, right?
Thank you for watching this today's episode, even though it wasn't that deep. Thank you for steeping with us anyways. And just make sure to, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to, and
Cheers!